Hi, I'm Jeremy, known as Ice.
I'm Headshot, known as Landon.
And I'm Justin, known as Fiero.
I'm John Hill, known as Jay-Z. Today we're here to just have a casual talk about the new jack that came out by PolarStar this last Thursday. We've had it for a couple weeks, ran it through its paces, had some guys play with it that never played with HPA before. It's going to kind of give their opinions on it, what they think. The unit is a simple drop-in unit, goes right in your original gearbox. For best applications, use your original gearbox, guys. You'll save a lot of headaches on alignment and all that. So, or if you don't want to use your original gearbox, at least get the same brand of gearbox to put in. You'll set lots of headaches with that. And alignment's critical for optimum performance on these units, just like you are with all HPA. PolarStar, this is their entry-level unit, which most people would think, oh, it's cheap, but let me tell you guys, it lives up to the standard PolarStar set throughout the years. I mean, it performs great. Yeah, you don't have your open closed bolt like you do with Fusion engine, but as far as performance-wise, it does excellent.
So you talk about that being a drop-in unit. I mean, literally, what all are you going to need besides just what you're talking about, the gearbox and the jack itself? Because I am the one who's never used HPA at all into a field, and I've never put one together.
Well, like they have players packages through like AMP starting at $460, which is an excellent price. That'll come with your tank, your air rig, battery, the jack. All you need is a bone yard gun or your existing gun to stick it in, and you're ready to go.
So literally, I could take any weapon I chose, as far as I assume at this point M4 or a version 2 with this one here.
Yeah, the initial ones are all version 2s, but they're going to be coming out with version 3 and other ones shortly.
Which is really just the trigger board and the nozzle. That's all that's changed.
Yeah.
I mean, the unit itself is the same.
So, I mean, if you have a M4 and an AK, you could always just buy the trigger board and the nozzle for your version 3 and switch it back and forth if you're into that.
Gotcha. Instead
of having to buy two separate units.
Yeah.
You know. So, now a question I know I've had come up on the settings. I mean, the settings are real simple. You just have mainly your dwell and rate of fire that you really need to mess with. You know, real simple. It does have an anti-stiction option, and I know some were worried, well, you know, isn't it automatic? And what anti-stiction is, it is to help overcome the friction. Like, say, if the gun, you don't shoot for a while, then when you go to shoot initially, you know, sometimes the grease and everything adds friction. Mainly only time is in extreme cold when your grease gets a little thicker.
Which we definitely play in.
Yeah, SR19 was quite cold.
But this is the direct words from Ron, PolarStar, on it, because I asked, you know, for clarification on it. He goes, the anti-stiction function is most likely something you will not need to use. We had started on it, Fusion engine, back when the solenoids had the weaker coils, and such a feature would have been helpful. Since we updated the solenoids, that issue has gone away, so there's not been a need for it, and it was never added in. However, since the programming was already done, we decided to implement it in the F1 firmware, which Jack is using. However, chances are you will never have to use it unless possibly in extreme circumstances. So far, we have not had an issue with Stiction production units of Jack. So, for majority of players, probably never need it.
If you're up to Alaska, and I'll be sure.
Yeah, but if you're using freezing temperatures, possibility you might need to use it. I know on other HP units I've used, a lot of times you turn up your DP, you know, but.
So he doesn't give like an exact limit of when you would have to use that or anything. Because I know here, talking about playing in cold, we've played in days that are single digits outside.
And, you know, on the older units that I've had, you know, you turn up your DP to overcome it. Which is your dwell on them. Sure. So, but
I mean, some guys were posting on the site asking how fast the rate of fire was. Not really tuning the one we used. We got up to 50. You see that below? It's like a little A10 Warthog at that rate. We use GMP high RPS mags. We're not saying you can't get higher than that, but that's as high as we got it to go. And actually effectively reading the chrono. None of us really play full auto, so I don't think we really need to go that high anyways.
And
but
that and just like, I don't use... For my saw, the rate of fire is like, what, 11 or 12?
yeah, 50 would be out of some babies pretty quick.
But for your speed freaks that like to know how fast we go.
Oh, when I gotta go indoor, man, gotta hit that 60 FP, 60 BPS.
Well, to make a fact, we didn't really tune it. So, I mean, it's guaranteed, like, factory settings. Obviously, it's up the RPS. We know it'll do 50. So, free speed freaks, I'm pretty sure it'll go faster than that. Just enjoy. The day we played with it, or I got to play with it, and these two played with it, we shot 3,538 shots, what the FCU said. And that was like...
Something like that.
We roughly used like 1,400, 1,500 PSI. And again, that was just factory settings. The gun was just kind of right out of the box. Run off a 300mm Type bore.
Yep.
So, I mean, the efficiency of that was really good. And obviously, you can get more if you're obviously to tune it and everything else. So, the efficiency was on par.
And we purposely set it at just basically the stock settings just for a lot of people just getting it into HPA that don't know how to tune their gun really.
Those are stock settings we were using?
Yeah.
Those are awesome stock settings.
Yeah, worked really
I
well.
mean, I turned down the 12 just a slight bit, but it was basically stock.
And that's on 70 PSI, too. So,
Like I
mean,
said, I did that on purpose just to see how well it would form and how people would like it. And that's probably what a lot of people will do initially that don't know.
yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying. Right out of the box, you pretty much install it, let it go, and it, for the most part, will perform to your basic standards.
Yeah. So the efficiency was pretty good then, it sounds like. So, for instance, the larger tank, like what I got to use off of last weekend, I mean, how many shots are you looking at on something like that? I know we
That was
kind
a
of covered it.
45.
I mean, it was a 90 4500 tank.
So
And
basically-
just rough guesstimate off just the settings we had, probably 9,000 some.
Okay.
And
I don't think
which,
the battery lasts that long.
Like I said,
So-
if you would, set the dwell down a lot, which you can, you get even
Right.
more shots out of it.
And with those shots, we had a mixture of full auto and semi-auto. If you look below, there'll be a little clip, or
Right.
you can look at our teaser video we did. But so that's a mixture of both. So I mean, if you were to run out of air at an op or something like that, try to run as like a rifleman on single shot, and you're going through 10,000 shots roughly.
Yeah, that's
You did a lot of shooting. I would dare to ask what your support gunner, how many he went through then. I hope he better have went through at least triple that.
Because semi is always more efficient than
Sure.
full auto.
Yeah, see, I know when I
Always.
got a chance to use it, that's all I used was semi. I just so stuck on using it, I never even thought to even switch over to full to try it.
I switched over just because to see what it'd be like. It was pretty fun.
And it was only set at 14
Quiet.
rounds per second.
Yeah, which is
Oh, it's not like, oh my god, the
which
rate
is
of fire
actually-
just got, oh, this is neat.
Faster than what I set my own personal guns at.
Which
I
is
have
still-
mine even slower than that.
I liked how
but-
light it was.
well, it's still ample. That's ample. Again, because we play in a wooded area. Rate of fire, I mean, obviously, full auto doesn't come in play sometimes when you're trying to break through brush and whatnot, and 15 is ample. I mean, the spread, if you look at the teaser video we did, not spreading that bad. I mean, you could probably effectively go to like double that, so go to 30, and I guarantee the spread would still be within a reasonable value that you can still play with. It's not like a complete shotgun spread.
Oh yeah.
And again, stock settings.
And it was a stock setup
Yeah.
as far as a hop up, just standard system of bucking with Pro Win hop up.
So nothing. Yeah. So
Again, set to basically what most people would start with, since it's supposed to be entry level gun. That's why I had it set up that way.
Yeah, it was really interesting this weekend because I've never used the HPA at all up until last weekend, and so it was a good thing for me to actually kind of try out and see what it was like even using the HPA itself. I thought it was a very, very nice shooting gun with that, even all at stock settings, like what you said. But one of the things that kind of interested me a little bit more too is we were messing around with it a little bit more, and he started showing about the FCU, and we talked about I'd seen things before where every time you want to program it like rate of fire, it's like special programming, but on this one it looked like you literally had just on the display, and you can tell it how many rounds per
If
second
you put it
want
at 14, you shoot 14 rounds per second.
So you're not having to go
Because of
and
my
decipher
yes,
anything
problem.
or
Yeah.
learn
And
the
that's-
programming off
And
of
that's
it.
because before on the Fusion engine, you had 2 solenoids and a bunch of different settings, and all that affected the rate of fire. So you
Not to
couldn't
mention a big
have,
headache.
just a solid number to put in. Where this one's single solenoid, so that firmware is easy to write up to show the straight rate of fire
So, yeah,
matching the number.
Because with that, I can see where it'd definitely be a lot easier for somebody who's never done anything with HPA at all could go into something like this and almost just right out of the gate be effective.
Yeah, it's very simple tuning. I mean, very simple. Like I said, basically, really all you need to mess it with is your rate of fire and your dwell.
Yeah. And then the dwell, I keep meaning to ask this. I mean, what is that?
The dwell is how much air is released when you shoot. For longer barrels, you'll need...
So it's your volume.
Yeah.
Okay.
You'll have to set up higher, heavier ammo, things like that.
That's where the whole jewel creep thing comes into place. I mean, if you have the well, let's just say wide open, which is not so bad. I mean, you're obviously using more air than needed. But if you've got it wide open, you're gonna obviously you're gonna have more jewel creep than you would be if you actually tuned your dwell to your barrel length. It's essentially when the BB exits the barrel to whatever BB weight you're using, the dwell is tuned properly. It's essentially out of air. It says filled the chamber completely with whatever you have. If you've got it wide open and you know your system can produce enough air, well, there you go. I mean, that's
right.
It is what it is. Okay. And I mean, when we did the FPS test, we had the dwell all the way open, didn't we? I think maybe or close to.
No,
I don't remember where they were at.
They were stock.
It was still stock. Okay, so we didn't touch it.
I was going to say I don't think he changed it in there when we were setting all that up.
Well, I know the 300 millimeter at 130 psi on the Type board, which is 6.03. Right down below, you'll see. But I think we got as high as 450 or 460 ish. You'll see below. And then you also see below we went down to 50 psi because it's as low as it can operate, and we got down to like 303, which is still, I mean, fantastic. Again, because we're talking about we don't have much CQB by us, but if we went CQB, you know, when we're running on 60 psi and put 2 5s in the gun, you're still shooting over 300 FPS most likely, and your air efficiency is going to be even higher than what we ran out at that day because the PSI is lower. And again, you tune the dwell, you got even more. Then we threw a 509, just a stock brass barrel, so whatever the bore on that may be. We went to 130 psi and we went to 480. So we know obviously the jack still's got more volume because it just went up alone right there between salt and barrel. So it's got enough volume to easily pump a 509. It's not going to obviously just be for little CQB guns. So yeah, definitely as far as that went.
And your longer barrels will be more efficient, like I said.
Sure.
Like a Barrett.
So.
You have long a barrel is?
Really?
PS21 Plus, isn't it?
So you're talking like 650?
650.
Yeah.
I don't have a 650 to test.
Why not?
If somebody else has a 650 and want to test it and let us know what it
Tell you
does.
what, if we have to, I have one.
That is a
we'll try
massive-
some other time.
That is a massive gun you're walking around with.
I know you talked about trigger response. You liked it on it.
That was actually really nice. I mean, I hate to word it this way. I've always been a PTW fan, and that's because of the trigger response and everything. You know, using this as the first HPA that I've ever been able to use, I noticed that trigger response was quite similar. Actually, as soon as I squeeze the trigger, that round is going.
I'm the same.
In there, so there was no, split second. You're having to wait still like a normal AEG, because AEG, I mean, you just know when you pull that trigger, you're hearing the motor turn and
the system
all that
cycle.
stuff go.
Yeah,
exactly. You're hearing that gearbox cycle through. But to this, it was still almost instant. And
I'm the same.
me being a semi-auto user, every time I squeeze the trigger, even if it was in rapid succession, those rounds were gone almost instantly. So that was nice.
Same way, PTW person, and just on par with it. It's like, oh, full auto? I don't need it. I've got semi. I can just.
Well, I mean,
if you got trigger response like that, who needs full auto?
I agree, and that's what I said. The only time I would go to it would be the brush.
Yeah,
and that's about probably the only extent.
Those AMS games that we go to, all the riflemen, semi-auto only, perfect.
Well, and a lot of people bring up, we brought up last the other day, for 460, Ace fantastic, kudos. Everyone's biggest gripe with people on our team and the other people is like the hose. I'll tell you right now, the hose does not matter. The hose never gets snagged. I've had zero issues with the hose. They maybe did a little bit because they ran it in a dump pouch, which is cool, whatever.
I
John and
was
myself,
fine in my dump pouch.
Well, then they're fine in his dump pouch too. Then
now, if I had my gear on, but it was also like 100 degrees out, I didn't want my gear.
Sure,
I'll stick in my backpack.
And that's John and I both routed through our vest.
Stuck it in your backpack.
Now, my problem with it was just the way mine was set up, because I put it in a dump pouch. It was on my battle belt, which I also have a weapons catch on there to sling a weapon. Sure. And the hose would catch on there, but that's just because I've never used HPA before.
And that's, I just know it's a big complaint.
And you wouldn't have all that slack in line if you had it on
your
back.
That's the same, like over your shoulder or under your arm.
Right, like how you set yours up. So you put it over your shoulder.
That's not something to worry about when you're buying HPA, I don't think. Is don't worry about the whole hose thing.
Yeah.
It is...
I didn't notice it.
Except for the couple times it caught under there, I honestly had forgotten it was there.
Yeah, exactly. I forget how time it's even there, and because I've never, and we go through brush like heavy. I've never had it like snag and hook, so I just roll with it. I mean, and then obviously, I mean, you got even different. That's running like we got different lines. You have other lines, don't you? So I mean, you've got different choices of lines to help out different things.
Yeah, for our testing, we use just the regular large bore lines. KP Haya makes a XL line, which we didn't use during our testing, but I did try later, and
that's like
it made a significant difference on the refresh rate and your consistency of your shots. You know, especially like if you run full auto.
So even that line tighter, make a pretty good distance on consistency.
So
you can make them longer, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's a damn.
It doesn't look very long, but I'm sure once once it's in your backpack.
Actually, it's
this is
36 inch.
This is what you ran with.
You ran with.
This is what you ran with. This is go my backpack through my vest and
very nice upgrade. I would suggest.
Yeah, hands down.
And I know Amped even has what they call the IGL lines that are thicker, larger bore line that goes right off the back of the engine itself. That I think would be also a nice upgrade for them. So
in that player's package you were talking about, you said it comes with a line. Is that like that right there, I take it?
Yeah, it'll be the regular large bore line.
Okay.
Which is still a good line.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just saying as far as
like
upgrades,
said, that's what we used
these
over
are
the
nice.
weekend. So.
Yeah, and there's no issues with that.
But
no, it worked perfect.
Like I said, when you were using it, you were using this, and it worked great.
You could scare someone without making them think it's
so. But I was just listing one of the upgrades that I think would be nice, you know.
Oh, sure.
For people later on.
I mean, again, for $460, again, you buy a boneyard gun for like $50. Let's say even say 60, whatever. I mean, you could literally have an HPA set up completely, everything to go, ready to roll for like $500.
Yeah.
Max, I mean, $550. If you wanted to spend a little more and find a body or whatever the case is.
Where when I used to see all this stuff way back when, just the Fusion engine itself was $500 plus.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I remember.
No, that's a heck of a deal there by all means.
I will do that.
Yeah. Everybody's got any?
The tuning is very simple. Very simple, especially compared to the Fusion engine.
Like I said,
which I love my Fusion engines.
Us idiots could figure it out.
But it takes a while to perfect your settings.
HPA certified.
And anytime you changed anything, you know, your barrel length or whatever, you'd have to start over with your settings and mess with again.
Right.
Where this one, basically only the dwell. It's the only thing you'd have to adjust for if you wanted to switch uppers real fast between CQB and
swap your PSI and change the dwell, and you can go. You can have one gun for wherever you want to go. Really.
Yeah, that FCU is
DMR
literally
to
potato head
CQB.
style. So
Indoor, outdoor.
So very simple.
Yeah.
You know.
Has everybody's got any questions, comments, concerns? Post below. Y'all probably know John from the PolarStar page.
Yeah. PolarStar Airsoft owners on Facebook. Look in the files section. Always got a lot of information on there from all different great gun techs. You got KP and there's some stuff from PolarStar Rod, PolarStar Jordan, you name it. It's a great place for a resource. Post questions even on there. We're just a community trying to help each other, you know, figure out any issues or supposed issues. Sometimes, many times, just user error, but you know, that's what it's there for, to help each other out. I'd like to thank PolarStar Airsoft for providing Jack for us to try out, run through its paces. Love you guys.
Any questions, comments, concerns? Post it below.